Dot and the Kangaroo. Part 1. Dot loses her way. It was a big, bright-eyed hare that led Dot away from the farm. She was in the garden picking flowers when it suddenly sprang out in front of her. Without thinking, Dot followed it through the gate and towards the trees. "Don't go too far from the house," her mother called out from the kitchen window. "It's easy to get lost in the bush." But the hare kept stopping, looking back at Dot, and then disappearing again. And each time, Dot went after it. Then suddenly, with a huge leap, the hare vanished. Dot looked around her. The trees and bushes all looked the same in every direction. She ran and ran, hoping to catch sight of her house. But it was no good. She was lost in the bush, and it was just starting to get dark. She buried her face in her hands and began to cry. When she looked up, a big grey kangaroo was standing a few feet away. It stared at Dot for a moment, its head on one side, then bounded away and returned with a spray of coloured berries cradled in its paw. It offered them to the little girl. Dot dried her eyes on her dress, took the berries and ate them. Then a very strange thing happened. She could hear sounds everywhere, like 100 different voices all talking at once. Then she heard another voice, louder and clearer than all the rest. "I knew what was the matter at once," said the kangaroo gently. "I've been miserable ever since I lost my baby kangaroo. You've lost something too, haven't you?" "Well, yes," mumbled Dot, still wondering if she was in a dream. "I have, actually. I've lost my way." "Ah," said the kangaroo. "I thought you'd lost something. Isn't it an awful feeling? You feel sort of empty inside. Tell me what your way looks like. Perhaps I've seen it, or we can look for it together." Dot laughed and tried to explain that she could not find her way home. "Ah, that's just like you humans," said the kangaroo. "If you've only had one home, you're bound to lose it. But if you made your home everywhere and anywhere, it'd never be lost. Humans are no good in the bush." Dot wasn't really listening. She was thinking how hungry and thirsty and lost she was. "Still," continued the kangaroo after a pause, "you're only a little human. That's not really your fault. You must be very thirsty, because I get thirsty at sundown too. Climb into my pouch and we'll hop off to the waterhole for a drink. Then I'll try to find your way for you." So Dot got to her feet and climbed into the kangaroo's furry pouch. As they bounded away, Dot was rocked in her cosy pocket and felt so snug that she sang a little song to herself. "That's a nice tune," said the kangaroo. "But please stop singing now. We're getting near to the waterhole." Dot peeped out of the pouch and then wished she'd stayed curled up inside. The kangaroo was hopping down such a steep slope. Huge rocks lay on either side, and there seemed to be no footholds anywhere. Dot shut her eyes. Surely the kangaroo would lose her balance any minute and plunge them both over the side of the gully. But the kangaroo slowly picked her way to the bottom and came to a big boulder that hung right over the waterhole. The rough surface of the stone shone like a looking glass, reflecting the glow of the twilight sky. For thousands of years, kangaroos had polished the stone with their soft, feet and tails on their way to drink at the waterhole. She was just turning to hop down from the rock when a bronze-winged pigeon called out to her, "Kangaroo, roo, roo, take care. Humans were here last night and they killed 10 of us. We flew down for a drink, just a little sip, and they were waiting for us. Now we're too frightened to drink again, and we're so thirsty." Dot shrank back into the pouch, trembling with fright at the pigeon's awful words. But the kangaroo bravely stepped forward, raised her black nose, and sniffed the air. Well, there's not a sound, nor a smell. It should be safe. Get out, little human, and wait here while I check. Dot climbed out of the pouch onto the ground, and the brave kangaroo skipped quietly to the water's edge. Dot could hardly bear to watch. Would the hunters be waiting, their sharp spears at the ready? Was it them stirring the long reeds by the water's edge, or just the fishes? The kangaroo kept her head bent and drank. Tonight, at least, the waterhole was safe. Soon, hundreds of little birds whirred past them to the edge of the pool, dipping their bills into the water. Then, as quickly as they had come, they whirred back into the bushes. Dot was as frightened as they were. She quickly ran to the water, drank down 3 gulps, and ran back to the rock where the kangaroo was waiting. "Jump in," said the kangaroo. "It's never safe for long beside the pool. The humans know all our drinking places." Under a bright and starry sky, the kangaroo hopped along with Dot pressed close against the warm, soft fur of her pouch. Eventually, they arrived at a cave, and curling up together on the dry, sandy floor, they both slept at once. When Dot awoke next morning, she somehow knew she was in danger. Then she saw it. There, lying coiled on her stomach, was a big black snake. And the kangaroo had gone. Dot's heart thumped. She dared not move. And suddenly, from outside the cave, came a loud shriek of laughter.
Don't be afraid,
A voice chuckled.
keep still and no harm will come to you. I'll kill the snake.
Dot turned her head a little and looked out of the cave's mouth to see a big white kookaburra perched on the branch of a tree. His long, sharp beak gaped as if he was grinning, and under his breath he kept repeating,
What a joke. Oh dear me, what a joke.
"I don't see anything funny about it," thought Dot.
The kangaroo's going to get some berries for your breakfast,
said the kookaburra.
She asked me to keep an eye on you, but that cunning old snake slipped in while I went to see the white owl about my terrible indigestion. Ha! What a joke, eh? What a joke!
That very moment, the snake shivered and its coils began to unfold. Dot felt quite sick as it slithered over her bare legs, but she didn't move a muscle. Slowly, the snake slid off her body onto the floor and wriggled away through the entrance of the cave. As soon as the snake was outside the cave, the kookaburra dived down and snatched the snake's neck in his powerful beak and lifted it off the ground. Writhing and hissing with fury, the snake couldn't escape. The kookaburra dragged it up into the tree. Whack! 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 3 times the big beak lashed it against the tree, and the snake lay dead across the bough.
Did you see that, hey? What a joke!
Dot shuddered, but the bird was still chuckling and telling some of his friends what had happened when the kangaroo returned. She scolded the kookaburra for letting the snake into the cave and led Dot away from the horrid sight of the dead snake. Then she emptied her pouch to give Dot a breakfast of buds and berries. The strange breakfast tasted wonderful. "Thank you so much. You're very kind," said Dot. "But I really would like to find my way home." "Well, I've asked everyone I've met," said the kangaroo, putting her head on one side, "and they all agree that there's only one person who'll know where it is." "Oh, who's that?" "Well, everybody says I should ask the platypus." "Do you think he'll know?" asked Dot. "Oh, yes, I expect he will." So Dot and the kangaroo set off to find the wise old duck-billed platypus. Part 2. Dot and the Hunters. "Goodbye, kookaburra," called Dot as she and the kangaroo set off in search of the platypus. All the other animals said he could help Dot find her way home. "I've never seen a platypus," said Dot as they passed along the bottom of a deep gully. "What's he like?" "Oh, he's all right, really," said the kangaroo. "But he's such a weird creature. The animals say he's a bird, and the birds say he's an animal, or a fish. He's left alone by everyone, except the humans. They're always writing books about him." After a while they came to a shady pool. The kangaroo hopped to the edge of the water and made little grunting noises, and soon Dot could see something black on the surface of the water. It was the bill of the strangest creature she'd ever seen, small and furry, but with webbed feet like a duck. The kangaroo licked a spot of dirt off Dot's forehead and said, "Now, be very careful what you say to him." "I am the Ornithorhynchus paradoxus," said the platypus to Dot. "Are you going to write a book about me too? Oh, humans, you come out here, dig up my home, and think you can write books about me. Me, whose ancestors have been in the world for millions of years." Dot tried to explain about losing her way, but the platypus looked bored. At last she burst out, "Well, someone must know where it is." Of course," said the platypus, yawning. "You simply have to ask the wagtail." "Oh, thank you," cried Dot. "How clever you are, platypus." "I told you, my name is Ornithorhynchus paradoxus," and he swept back to the pool. "So, we must find Willy Wagtail," said the kangaroo. "Hop in and let's get going." All day they searched, bounding through the bush. But although many creatures had seen him or heard his rattling, chattering song, clickety-clack, clickety-clack, he had always flown off just before the kangaroo arrived. So, after a drink at a waterhole, she found them a cosy shelter in the rocks where they could curl up for the night. As Dot lay by the kangaroo, she thought sadly of her parents looking for her. They wouldn't know how well she was being looked after by her friends. The stars peeped through, and Dot tried to count them. Suddenly, she opened her eyes. The moon was high, and the kangaroo was sniffing the air. Through the trees came the sound of steady drumming. "What is it?" she asked. "Aborigines," whispered the kangaroo. "We must get away." "But they won't hurt us, will they?" said Dot, who longed to see a human face again. "I'd love to see the dancing." "If they see us, they'll hunt us with their dogs and kill us," replied the kangaroo. "But if you must see them, follow me and be very, very quiet." They hopped through the bushes, closer and closer to the noise. Inside the pouch, Dot could feel her friend trembling. Soon they could see men dancing, their bodies painted red and white. Others squatted on the ground, beating boomerangs and spears together or clapping. All of them chanted a strange, wailing song, while the campfire lit up their faces with a horrid red glow. "Oh, I'm frightened," Dot whispered. "White humans aren't like that." "All humans are the same underneath," said the kangaroo. "They all kill us. Look, the dance is about killing kangaroos. One of the dancers is pretending to be a kangaroo and the other is pretending to hunt him." Dot gave a shiver and whispered, "I wish I wasn't a human." The gentle animal patted her. "Oh, there are a few good humans," she said. "If you never wear kangaroo skin boots and never, never eat kangaroo soup, you could grow up to be one." "Oh, I never will," Dot promised. They were so busy whispering that they quite forgot to watch for the Aborigine dogs. The dingoes prowling the camp suddenly scented the kangaroo and barked. The singing stopped. The voices began shouting. The kangaroo grabbed Dot and took several enormous bounds. She seemed to fly through the night. But the snarling dogs and yelling Aborigines were all chasing her now. Poor Dot was terrified. The moon was bright, and the huntsman could easily see the leaping kangaroo. She put such power into every leap that she began to gasp for breath. "Oh, kangaroo!" Dot cried. "Put me down. Without me, you might get away." "Never again," panted the brave animal. "That's how I lost my little Joey." Suddenly, she came to a halt. She was perched on a rock. Ahead was a deep, black gully, a great chasm in the earth. Far behind them, Dot could see the hunters. But one dog was closer than the rest, its sharp teeth gleaming in the moonlight. The kangaroo quickly lifted the girl out of her pouch and hopped forward to face the dog. She stood straight and tall and opened her little arms wide. With a terrible snarl, the dog sprang at the kangaroo's throat. But she seized it in her two black hands, kicked out with one of her powerful hind legs, and when she threw the dog to the ground, it was dead. But the other hunters were getting closer. The only chance was to leap the chasm. The kangaroo picked up Dot, put her back in her pouch, and leapt towards the fearful gulf. Again Dot cried, "Oh, darling kangaroo, leave me here and save yourself." But she heard only the whistling of the wind. Then came the great spring. Dot held her breath, and they flew through the air. Yes, they had just reached the other side. No, the kangaroo was slipping back into the gully. She fought for a foothold, found it, staggered forward, then fell, exhausted, on her face. In an instant, Dot was out of the pouch and had her arms round the poor animal's neck. "Oh, don't die, dear kangaroo. Oh, please don't die." she cried, burying her face in the grey fur. But the kangaroo lay, gasping. Suddenly, she heard a rude voice behind her. "Well, why don't you give friend Kangaroo some water? Huh? What fools humans are!" Dot turned and saw a little brown bird on long legs. "But there is no water." "Ah, booby," sneered the bittern. "It's under ya. Just make a hole in the grass." Dot dug her hands into the grass and moss and made a little hole. At once, beautiful clear water welled up in it. She scooped it up and splashed it over the kangaroo's panting tongue and matted fur. To her delight, the brown eyes opened and she knew that her good friend wasn't going to die. "You were very kind to tell me about the water," Dot said to the bittern. But although the bird was very pleased to hear this, it was always so rude that it only pulled a face and said, "Yeah." When it had gone a few steps, it turned. "Hey, stupid! You'll find a dry cave beyond that gum tree. It's quite good enough for kangaroos and silly little humans." Thank you," called Dot as she helped the kangaroo to her feet. How lucky she was to have found such friends in the bush. Soon she'd find Willy Wagtail too, and he'd help her find her way home. "When I grow up," she thought, "I'll never let anyone hurt these friends of mine in the bush." Part 3. Dot finds her way home. On the morning of Dot's third day in the bush, the sun rose all gold and crimson on a bright, fresh, sweet-smelling world. The crickets chirruped, frogs croaked, and the birds sang. Perhaps among the birds was Willy Wagtail, who knew Dot's way home. The kangaroo was very weary after escaping the Aborigine hunters and fighting off their dogs, so Dot walked instead of riding in the pouch, and by noon she was tired herself. When they reached a shady spot, the kangaroo said, "You rest here, Dot. I'll go and look for Willy Wagtail while you have a little nap." Dot wasn't so afraid now of being alone in the bush, and she laid herself down and quickly fell asleep. But her dreams were confused and strange. There seemed to be great crowds of murmuring voices. As she woke, she realised the voices were real. There was a great hubbub. "This isn't your place. Go over there. Has anyone seen Wombat?"
Who's going to be judge?
Dot sat up and gazed around her. Nearly every creature she'd ever heard of seemed to be there. Cranes, swans and the pelican, the wallaby, the bandicoot, the possum, the koala, and a rainbow of brightly coloured screaming parrots. Oh, how kind of you all to come and see me," cried Dot. The animals were instantly silent, and the pelican waddled forward.
We are here to put you on trial, he said, for the wrongs humans have done to the bush creatures. We will be fair and just. I'll put the charges. Cockatoo will be the judge. The birds over there are the jury.
Oh, how funny, said Dot, not a bit frightened. She loved all the creatures so much that she couldn't believe any of them wanted to hurt her. It isn't funny at all, said the magpie. Look, the prisoner is scratching the judge's head. The cockatoo at once remembered he was judge, and Dot stopped scratching his head feathers.
Call the kookaburra. 2 of his kind were shot last week by white humans.
The kookaburra, who had saved Dot from the snake when she was first lost, sat in a tree and laughed softly. Why don't you call the platypus first? The humans dig up his home and plague him with questions. Platypus won't come, cried the rat. He says he's got more ancestors than us all.
Well, call koala, said the pelican. The humans put him into zoos. This trial makes my head feel empty,
said the koala, and he fell asleep in the gum tree.
Then call Kangaroo to give evidence, cried the pelican. She suffers most. The humans hunt her and skin her and make boots and soup out of her.
It's no good, laughed the kookaburra. Kangaroo and Dot are great friends. She won't speak against the little human. Is it possible? Said the pelican.
Has the kangaroo forgiven the hunting?
Yes, chuckled the kookaburra.
Then I give up.
And the trial came noisily to an end. Just then the kangaroo bounded into the glade, panting with excitement. Dot! Dot! She cried. I found Willy Wagtail, and he knows your way. Then putting Dot into her pouch, she leaped clean over the judge and carried Dot far away. Soon they could hear the clickety-clack of Willy Wagtail's song. What a fuss there's been about you, he said. Such a lot of humans searching, and they're all so miserable and tired. It's late now, but tomorrow you must follow me past the line of oak trees over there. Your home is that way. Dot and the kangaroo talked until late that night. When you go, said the gentle creature, it'll be like losing my little Joey all over again. In the morning, Dot and the kangaroo, guided by Willy Wagtail, reached an open plain and met an emu. It was a clear sign that humans were nearby because emus love to live near flocks of sheep.
I'm going to drink at the sheep's water tank now,
said the big bird.
You could come with me, but the humans have put down poison to keep kangaroos away. They don't mind emus. They like to eat our eggs too much. They only kill us when we dance among their sheep. Oh, I wonder why sheep are so exciting. Oh, look at that flock over there. Oh, I can hardly keep my feet still.
As they approached the house, Dot and the kangaroo could see a man near the house carrying a gun. Suddenly, he peered into the bush.
Well, fancy a kangaroo coming so near the house,
he exclaimed. A woman came to the door, covered her eyes against the sun and looked out into the bush. The next instant, the kangaroo bounded into the paddock and Dot's father raised his gun to shoot. But her mother ran forward and pushed it away. No! She shouted as the gun fired harmlessly into the air. Look! It's Dot! The little girl had just tumbled out of the kangaroo's pouch. Arms outstretched, she ran to them and they picked her up and hugged her and kissed her. Dot's mother began to cry out of sheer happiness, and that made Dot cry too. Even her father dabbed at his eyes as he cuddled the little daughter he had thought was dead.
I don't understand, he kept saying. How could you possibly?
Oh, I've got so much to tell you, Daddy, laughed Dot. But first, you must come and stroke my kangaroo. You nearly shot her. And she was the one who saved me and brought me home. promise me you'll never, never hurt a kangaroo again, or any other bush creature." "Oh, I promise, darling," he said, and gave Dot another big kiss. All the while, the good kangaroo sat on her haunches, panting with fear since the bang of the gun. But she saw that Dot's father was truly grateful and would keep his promise. As all the humans went indoors, still laughing and hugging one another, she hopped to the window for a glimpse of the home where Dot lived. While she was peering in, something very strange happened. Out of the open door hopped a little Joey. With a hop, skip and a jump, it landed itself in the kangaroo's warm pouch. Dot's mother glanced up and saw the little grey face poking out of the pouch. "Why, your kangaroo's got our little Joey, the one Jack found after the kangaroo hunt last week." Looking round, Dot saw the kangaroo and the tiny Joey. "It's her lost baby," she cried. "They've found each other. Oh, now we're all so happy." But there was sadness in Dot's heart when at sunset she waved goodbye to the kangaroo and saw her dear friend hop away into the twilight. Still, she wouldn't go far. From now on, their neighbourhood would always be a safe place for the birds and animals of the Australian bush.